Ever grab a snack and wonder what all those strange names and E-numbers on the ingredient list really mean? We all know processed foods aren't exactly health food, but a groundbreaking new study reveals a specific ingredient that might be doing more harm than we thought. Today, we're diving into the world of food preservatives and their surprising connection to one of the biggest health challenges of our time: type 2 diabetes. You see, food preservatives are everywhere. Their main job is to extend the shelf life of products, stopping them from spoiling by fighting off microbes or slowing down chemical reactions. But are they also interfering with our bodies? That's the question a team of top researchers in France decided to answer. This wasn't a small-scale experiment. Scientists from institutions like Inserm and Sorbonne Paris Nord University tapped into a massive health study called the Nutrinet Santé cohort. They followed over 100,000 adults for more than a decade, from 2009 to 2023. Imagine that, over 10 years of data, tracking everything from what people ate to their overall health. Participants regularly submitted detailed food diaries, listing every single thing they consumed, including the specific brands of industrial products. This level of detail was the key. The researchers could then cross-reference these foods with databases like Open Food Facts to figure out exactly which preservatives and how much of them each person was consuming over the long term. Just how common are these preservatives? Well, in 2024, the Open Food Facts database, which lists about 3.5 million food products, found that over 700,000 of them contained at least one preservative. That's a huge chunk of the modern food supply. In their analysis, the researchers grouped preservatives into two main types. First, you have the non-antioxidant preservatives. These are the ones that directly stop spoilage from bacteria and mold. Think of them as the bouncers for your food. On ingredient labels, you'll often see them listed with E numbers between E200 and E299. The second group is antioxidant additives. These work by preventing the food from degrading due to oxygen exposure. They essentially protect the food from going stale or changing color. You'll find these under E numbers from E300 to E399. Now, previous lab research had already raised some red flags. Some studies on cells suggested that certain preservatives could potentially harm our DNA or interfere with our metabolism. But what happens in a Petri dish doesn't always translate to the real world, with large groups of people living their everyday lives. This is what makes the new French study so significant. It is one of the first to draw a direct line between preservative intake and the actual development of type 2 diabetes in a huge human population. The research team, led by Inserm Research Director Mathilde Touvier, meticulously analyzed all the data. They didn't just look at preservative intake. They also accounted for dozens of other factors that could influence diabetes risk, things like age, sex, physical activity, smoking, alcohol consumption, and even the overall quality of a person's diet, including their intake of calories, sugar, salt, and fiber. This is crucial because it helps isolate the effect of the preservatives themselves. So, after tracking over 100,000 people for more than 10 years, what did they find? The results were pretty striking. During the study, 1,131 participants were diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. When the researchers compared the groups, they found that people with the highest intake of preservatives had a significantly higher risk of developing the condition. Let's break down the numbers. Overall, a high consumption of preservatives was linked to a 47% higher risk of type 2 diabetes compared to those with the lowest intake. That's a substantial increase. When they looked at the two main types, the risk was even more specific. Non-antioxidant preservatives were associated with a 49% increased risk, and antioxidant additives were linked to a 40% higher risk. It seems both types of preservatives were playing a role, but the researchers didn't stop there. They wanted to know if specific, individual preservatives were the main culprits. Out of 58 different preservatives they identified, they focused on 17 that were consumed by at least 10% of the study population. Of those 17, a staggering 12 were individually associated with a higher risk of type 2 diabetes. And these aren't obscure chemicals you've never heard of. They are some of the most widely used additives on the market. Let's name a few. In the non-antioxidant group, we have potassium sorbate, also known as E202, sodium nitrite or E250, and acetic acid, E260. These are commonly found in things like processed meats, cheese, and baked goods. In the antioxidant group, the list included sodium ascorbate, or E301, citric acid, E330, and even rosemary extracts, E392. Yes, even something that sounds natural like rosemary extract, when used as a preservative additive, was linked to increased risk. Citric acid and phosphoric acid, which you'll find in countless soft drinks and processed foods, were also on the list. So what does this all mean for us? Mathilde Touvier, the coordinator of the study, emphasized that while these results need to be confirmed by other studies, they align with previous experimental data suggesting these compounds could be harmful. She called this work a world first in connecting preservative additives to the incidence of type 2 diabetes. Another researcher on the team, Anne Hassenpiller, believes this data adds to a growing body of evidence that calls for a reevaluation of the regulations for food additives. The goal is to better protect consumers. Ultimately, the study's conclusion circles back to advice we've heard before, but now with even stronger evidence to back it up. The researchers stress that their findings support public health recommendations to choose fresh, minimally processed foods whenever possible. It's about being more mindful of what's in our food and limiting our exposure to unnecessary additives. This doesn't mean you need to panic and throw out everything in your pantry. It's about awareness and making small, sustainable changes. Maybe it means swapping a highly processed snack for a piece of fruit. Or maybe it's about taking an extra minute at the grocery store to read the ingredients list and choosing the option with fewer additives. The convenience of processed foods is undeniable, but this research serves as a powerful reminder that convenience can come with hidden costs to our health. By understanding the potential risks, we can make more informed choices for ourselves and our families. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. Every small step towards a diet based more on whole, unprocessed foods is a step in the right direction for our long-term health. Thank you so much for watching. What are your thoughts on this study? Does it change how you think about the food you buy? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more deep dives into the science behind our health. See you next time.